Don't Replay Boredom is about someone who needs constant distractions, because to stop themselves from doing anything will make them bored again. While some distractions can be helpful, overusing content as a distraction can lead to addiction, and the longer they keep themselves distracted, the more intense the addiction becomes. If you've ever been addicted to watching content, or maybe you still do, have you ever wondered what led you there, or why you can't seem to pull away even if you want to? It's usually triggered by wanting to escape from something uncomfortable, where, during that time, being bored brings those thoughts or feelings to the surface, which makes it much easier to be occupied than work through the discomfort. It's implied that the main character is coming back from work, as it's late in the night and they're dressed smart. They seem to own or rent an apartment on one of the higher floors since they're taking an elevator. Quote, "Dig up this blue that's bloomed," end quote. Blue refers to the blue fingernails, and bloomed means being grown up, in contrast to the phrase, quote, "childlike blue hand," end quote. Their evening isn't surrounded by others in their life when they come home, giving us hints about their lonely life before it gets mentioned in the lyrics. They spend their evening instantly wanting to watch TV as soon as they walk in. They don't look after themselves as they are glued to the TV. Quote, "This previously divided rendezvous," end quote. Divided rendezvous means to have many divided meetings, as in they were previously sat in front of the TV for short sessions at a time, but having felt the comfort of watching content and perhaps starting to experience a lower mood, they are now sat continuously uninterrupted to the point that they don't even get up to look after themselves. Quote, "A sweet lack of consumption," end quote. They had to be woken up to eat and looked after by the frog. It looks like a frog, so I'm going with that. The frog also cooks and cleans the apartment. The main character explains why they are hooked to the TV. Quote, "I just want to take it easy," end quote. As they don't want to have to deal with their feelings and feel comforted by the TV. Quote, "The moment we connected," end quote. Since the main character fell asleep in the evening, it also implies that they don't sleep well, displayed further by the late night gaming before showing its morning. They keep themselves occupied throughout the night because they don't want a moment to think about the things they haven't figured out yet how to manage. Quote, "Every night I think of those memories," end quote. And the reason why they haven't seemed to be able to find any help in managing it is because they haven't found anyone who understands them, even if they show everything openly. Quote, "Even if I'm nude, nobody will see anything," end quote. But they also have troubles communicating themselves. Quote, "Even if I speak words, they're shallow and distressed," end quote. They can't fully express their raw feelings because they are too distressed to say exactly what they are feeling without breaking down, and end up expressing things lightly in a minimizing way. Quote, "With this plain design language of flowers," end quote. And language of flowers means their cryptic language that only a few people will understand, as only a few people will know the language of flowers and understand what they mean. Watching TV is similar to watching the scenery at a highway, as well as the adrenaline rush from the high speeds, similar to the dopamine rush from entertainment. Quote, "The highway in my dreams, I want to expose its warm, cold grey form," end quote. Which describes their content watching as it's inviting and warm, but also cold and grey staying there. Quote, "The highway in my dreams, I want to expose its lonely, hurtful fantasy," end quote. Just like how the TV are a fantasy, they also pretend to be on TV, looking at us, the audience, and pretending they're on camera and doing a take one sign. They pretend to be on a show, much like how people pretend to be in an anime, because it's much more exciting and fun than the main character's actual life, which is lonely and painful. And this adds to the ending, where they try to convince themselves to break out of this. They're inside the TV as part of their fantasy of being on TV and calling out to themselves who is stuck watching TV and wanting things to end. The lack of engagement with their own life makes it feel like, quote, "a never-ending motion," end quote. The only time where the end of the motion is felt and the passage of time is noticed is in the line, quote, In the end, it's an anniversary birthday, end quote, where the birthday is meant to mark another year in their life. Not to mention that there's no one there but the frog at their birthday. No offense to the frog. Otherwise, it's always the same routine. Quote, it's the same as before, end quote, and they're illustrated with a robot eye, suggesting that their only function is to watch content like a robot. This is further described in the verse, quote, tomorrow, just nod your head and wander over there, inviting us to the evening, end quote. Meaning to accept or nod that they wander or passively spend their night chilling on the couch, which is described as mellow. And while I think the word yellow is mainly used to rhyme with mellow, it's also a colour associated with happiness, but in this context, momentary happiness. This is symbolised by the apple tree zingai. A zingai is a creature that manifests from a person's thoughts and emotions. It appears to be inspired by the forbidden tree in the story of Adam and Eve. The main character is tempted and indulges in distractions again and again to feel satisfied. That causes their zingai to grow more, making more apples, which almost buries them to death. They feel torn between letting go of their addiction and staying sustained by it. Despite the comfort the distractions give, they don't feel good about it. Quote, but you're not settled like this in this restless step, end quote. Because they're not giving themselves what they need, which could be some company to help with the loneliness, or personal fulfillment by working on a project, because being sat watching content, quote, won't gain anything, end quote. The restless step is further emphasized by a power cut, which leads them to be frustrated without their distractions. Kinda like when the Wi-Fi is down in the house, and you get this feeling of madness, which is a symptom of addiction from withdrawal. Quote, save me from this world, end quote, as they can't stand staying or have the ability to leave. During this line, the girl appears, who later takes them to the exit, saving them. It's also the point where the animation cuts to a bathtub with the words close above it, which we later realized is the main character being submerged in water, drowning. And this overlaps between the couch and the bathtub. The events on the couch and the bathtub overlap more when the main character looks like they're gasping for air on the couch and in the bathtub, as well as the same apple juice running down their chin. When the girl first appeared, it was when the main character first started to watch TV, quote, the moment we connected, end quote, and she seems to be a figment of their fantasy, or a personification of their mind. She's not really there because there were many scenes where she's not present, where we would expect her to be between cuts. Originally, it seems like she's the reflection of the main character's addiction, distracting them when As You Like It Boy came over to check on them. The reason why As You Like It Boy may have gone to check on them is because they heard the water washing over the main character, which was being used to grow the zingai. You see As You Like It Boy hearing the water again when they are listening to the bathroom wall. However, it seems like she was enjoying herself at first, but then soon realized the addiction had become unhealthy, which is a reflection of the main character's thoughts, as her sadness is shown in the same scene as when the main character realizes that their zingai has taken a hold of them. This is shown literally when As You Like It Boy is being grabbed by Handman in-game before everything turned pitch black. The realization of how serious their addiction is paves the way for them to start finding a way out. Even though it's unpleasant, they want to experience boredom again. Quote, let me hear this mundane night, end quote, so they can address the uncomfortable feelings they have. Quote, remember those regrets you tell, end quote. However, a part of them still wants to hold on to their entertainment. Quote, don't replay the boredom, end quote. Which is why they rely on the girl, or the desire to leave, to lead them to the exit. Quote, don't end it yet, end quote. Could be referring to their distractions, but also their life, particularly when it's said by the girl. Quote, as long as I live, the voice of the last chapter will melt away, end quote. The voice refers to thoughts about dying, and as long as they live, the voice of the last chapter, or thoughts about death, will melt away. Quote, as long as I live, the voice of love and hate will melt away, end quote. referring to their love for watching TV as a distraction, as well as their hate for it, which will melt away when they try to live a more fulfilling life. However, there are no blueprints on how to live life, and this realization makes them, quote, laugh crazily with no answers, end quote. You get a sense of their low self-esteem, quote, it's okay, I'm useless, end quote, and it's okay, I won't win, end quote, as they deem themselves a loser when comparing themselves to others. But they do have perseverance despite it. Quote, but it's no problem, let's plunge forward, end quote. They manage to pull away before drowning, breaking the end sign and getting out of the apple juice coloured water in the bathtub. The apple, or their eye watching TV, shrivels and pops, with the remains in the bathtub. They've started to look after themselves with them brushing their teeth, and removed their addiction and fantasy shown by pushing the mirrors away that had the characters from the TV. Since Eve had written the song, the last line refers to the characters' childlike desires to get their emotional fulfillment from music. Quote, with this childlike blue hand, remember the songs that make you feel, end quote. It's all too easy to indulge in watching a lot of mind-numbing content. Content that doesn't really give you emotional fulfillment or makes you think about things, and it can feel like you're just giving yourself a spark of dopamine. And this makes the decision to look after yourself all the more difficult. So break away, even for a moment, to help your mind breathe. And as always, until next time, take care.